So welcome everyone to the EOcafe. A little bit earlier this time than usual, but very happy to have some the guests that we have today, such important guests. But EOcafe, where the EO community meet, and we try to help everyone stay in contact, keep abreast of the subjects of the day, and learn and understand how the EO community is working in Europe. And that's becoming an increasingly important part of our work, I feel. So today we're going to look at the future of Copernicus. We have a very special panel to help you learn and understand how Copernicus is evolving. So firstly, I want to welcome Mrs. Evie Papantonio, who is Acting Director, DG DEFIS, the Space Unit Director at Sea. We're joined by Isabel Benitez, who is the coordinatrice interministérielle Copernicus et GEO au ministère de l'Enseignement supérieur, de la Recherche et de l'Innovation en France. France, as you know, hold the rotating 6 months presidency of the EU. So Isabel is representing the EU presidency in the meeting, and Fiammetta Diani, who is head of market development at the EU Agency for Space Program, and Fiammetta has been with us before in the cafe, so I think most of you know her. Just a very quick reminder of the rules. Please keep your microphones off unless I invite you to take the floor. You're very welcome to keep cameras on. We like to see you, and we like to keep the feeling of some intimacy around the meeting. So please, if you feel able to, keep your cameras on. And later on, when we come to questions, everybody can join in the discussion that I shall have with our guests. Please put the questions into the chat. And if we take the question, then I'll call on you to put it personally and to come on, open up your microphone and come and join us in the meeting. So, as you will have noticed, our panel today is an all-female one. This is in recognition of the International Women's Day. It was last Tuesday. I'm a little bit of an imposter, really. There's been a lot of in recognition of International Women's Day, there have been a lot of studies published over the last few days, and I just picked up a couple of them. I noticed one that was reporting on the banking sector, that 1 out of the top 25 European banks has a female CEO, yet at board level, there's something like 37% of the directors are female. It seems easier to appoint a non-executive director on the board than it is for women to rise up through the ranks in the banks. And so at all levels below the board, there seem to be still barriers, and they talk about three glass ceilings in the banking sector. And the second study was one done in the UK. It was done by the Parliament in the UK, which looked at it found that companies with a more equal gender balance have a 25% more likely to have above average performance. And the main reason attributed to this and to the situation of the banking sector is flexible working conditions. So where there are flexible work conditions, it's easier for women to rise and to take part in the organization. And I'm sure that will be recognized by many of the working mothers who are here. And I hope it's also recognized by the working fathers as well. But I want to leave that subject for now. We'll come back to it later. And to start with our core topic, which obviously is linked to the Earth observation sector and the future of Copernicus. And all our panelists are in a position to help influence and shape the program over the next few years. So I'm really looking forward to hearing their views on how this will look and how this will work out. So firstly, maybe I can just ask each of our guests to say a little bit about their role and how they come to be doing what they are doing now. So a little bit about their path to where they are. So Evie, perhaps I could turn to you first.
Thank you, Jeff, and good afternoon to everybody. I'm really happy to join this EOcafe. For me, it's the first time that I finally made it, so even virtually. I'm now today in my position as acting director for space since a few days actually. But at the same time, also head of unit responsible for space policies since a couple of years now in the Commission DG DEFIS. My background, I mean, I've been I work in various commission services before, and I'm a lawyer by training. I've been now in space for some 4 years now. I find this is very passionate, and I'm happy to be part of this community, men and women working towards concrete objectives. I think as European Union, with the EU flagships, Galileo, Copernicus, and all the future initiatives, we are able to deliver concrete to the citizens and to the businesses. Thank you.
Thanks, Evie, and congratulations for the new position. So now from the French presidency, Isabel.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's also my first time, and I'm very pleased to be there with you. I am the French responsible of the coordination, the interministerial coordination of Copernicus and GEO, and Ministry of Higher Education, Research and Innovation in France. My background was much more oriented with earth science than space, but because I am an engineer and I'm coming from the School of Meteorology. And after that, I have a master in computing science, and I have I spent maybe 20 years in Meteo France and the other part in the Ministry of Transition Ecological, in charge of research about climate change, and also I was in charge of Copernicus too, made much more the user forum. And I am in charge of Copernicus as the coordination interministerial since 2019, sorry. So it has been 3 years. And I'm very, very passionate by this program and by all events or facts relative to the Earth and the protection of the Earth for future generation. Thank you.
Thanks, Isabel. And Fiammetta.
Yes, thanks, Jeff. How I ended up here. So first of all, I'm also an engineer, an aerospace engineer. So there I started in Milano, in Politecnico. And I immediately fall in love with space. Then I completed my studies with a master in economics. And I worked for 11 years in the private sector. So putting my hands on and really, let's say, working on real satellites, then fly, and so on. But in 2009, then I again fall in love, this time with the EU space, the space made in Europe. And I joined the GSA, the precursor of USPA. And my, let's say, passion, my fil rouge of all what I do is to make this space useful for us in our daily life. And I worked a lot on Gnss, and now since a couple of years, I'm back to Earth observation because I was already working on it in the private sector, and with Copernicus, the new challenge to make it widely used. So here I am, and I am looking forward to contribute.
So a common theme of enthusiasm for space and in particular for Earth observation, which is nice to hear. I'm an engineer by background as well, so really recognize that path. So now, in terms of Copernicus, we see it as it's a world-leading program. It's the first real operational program with multiple sensors, multiple different satellites. It offers enormous amounts of data. It's come a long way, but where will it go next? what do you see as being the priorities that will shape the program over the next few years? And I'll start with you, Effie, in the Commission, because clearly you have the sort of the main guiding lines there. We have the priorities for the member states and the new role of USPA, but you've been shaping the program through these first stages. How do you see it moving on?
Indeed, Copernicus is a user-driven program. This is what we always say, and so we always have really to listen to the user needs. This is how it started, and this is how it is developing, actually. So we're not the only ones shaping the future. Recently in Toulouse, we had a very nice conference co-organized with the French presidency. Isabelle was one of the key contributors there. On the 2035 vision, and Commissioner Breton, he really set his vision as a chantier for showing a bit the roadmap to which we should go. But nothing is set in stone, but he gave the big lines of actions to which now we really have to work together with all the member states, but also the European Space Agency, which is also our key partner in this program. But I would say the three main trends that we see for the evolution of Copernicus is first the digital, second the green, and third the resilience. But let me quickly say what are the key drivers for the digitalization. And you mentioned that Copernicus produces, I don't know how many petabytes per day, so it's a massive amount of data that are currently underexploited. So we really have to use these new technologies, automatization as much as possible, in order to quickly actually process the data and to be able to that they are used by the final users. For there also we need to work for new technologies, maybe new microprocessors, for example, new sensors, to be able to respond to this massive type of data. But digitalization also means that actually our Copernicus needs to be also more agile, and to be able to respond, for example, to urgent needs. And this is something that we've been reflecting on, how we can be more responsive on in particular on crisis environments. So for us also, under the digitalization umbrella, we also want to embrace the new space and the more and more startups. The new space, it is not, let's say, I'm not going to say what it is a new space. It is, for us, it is really an approach. So having this more agility, more responsiveness, and then disruptive innovation. And we've seen this coming from startups in particular, but not only. So I think this is something that we really want to embrace more and more SMEs and startups, in particular for this for the future of Copernicus, where we want to have kind of hybrid constellation, combining the big sentinels that we have, the big infrastructure, but also with more agile constellations, be it from a private sector or from other member states. So this is a kind of modern hybrid model to which we would like to benefit from the new space sectors. And we're actually launching a study on how we can integrate new space startups from the ecosystem, from the majority, I would say, from the whole member states. We really want to be inclusive in that sense. The second big driver, of course, is the green transition. As European Union, we've been the precursor of pushing for decarbonization and the 2050 goals for this. So the Copernicus, it is a fantastic tool. We all know it works perfectly fine for measuring all this data for our planet. But in particular, the new mission on the CO2, that we managed to have funds to be deployed as a priority, and we hope to be ready as of 26. The deployment, then that will give really a precious tool for the Union to be able to comply with the COP22 agreements, actually, on the CO2 monitoring and all the related, actually, precise monitoring of this. And finally, the third driver that we see in this evolution of Future Copernicus is a resilient Copernicus, resilient services. secure. I think this was, as Commissioner Breton said, that this was so far a taboo for the traditional users of Copernicus, but the global context in which we're, the geopolitical context actually made us realize that we have to adapt actually to the new realities. The recent invasion of Russia actually in Ukraine made us even more conscious in which environment we are operating. Space, so as Commissioner Breton said, there is a before 24th of February and then after 24th of February, also in space. So this made us realize that even more that we need to have EU strategic autonomy to avoid dependencies from third countries in key strategic areas, but also in key value chains. We cannot afford to be dependent on third countries in some key elements. As I said, this is brand new for the space sector, because even during the Cold War, space was actually set aside. Cooperation in space between Russia and the US and Europe, of course, was always on the table. We have the International Space Station. So unfortunately now with this Russian war, this is brutally stopped, this cooperation. So we are actually evaluating all the options that are on the table so that we do not have these dependencies from Russian technologies in particular. So in that sense, also in the war zones, we've seen that we would be needing to have for government users and also for security sensitive operations to rely on secure Copernicus data. This is not yet the case today, although we have this emergency service, but we really want to offer a secure services to this type of users. And this is something that we really want to build upon, so to have this geointelligence secure data that we could offer to governmental users. So I would say, to sum up, these are the three main ideas and priorities to which we are working upon with the community and with member states. Thank you.
Thanks, Evie. Oh, there's so many subjects there that we could carry on and discuss. I'll try and stick a little bit with the core. You mentioned the very interesting space conference that was organized under the French presidency, looking at Space 2035 or Copernicus 2035. Isabel, you were heavily involved in that. What were the key things that came out of that for you regarding the evolution of Copernicus? So where do you see that heading, that taking us?
First of all, this conference was effectively to consult member states, the users, for all communities, including geo communities, to better know what are the priority and what are the main value of Copernicus. And Copernicus, you know, as Evie said, it's user-driven, but it's also a big family, in fact. And people around Copernicus share the same value and the same fundamental goal about Copernicus. So it's a thing I maybe discover. I was not very surprised, but when we ask member states what they want to, how they see Copernicus in the future, they send us comments and proposals, and at this stage, I realize that we share a lot of things, a lot of value, and that's a first result. Is that Copernicus, of course, have to face future challenges that are linking to new environmental and societal challenges, and that have to be based on user needs and state of the art of research, while maximizing the user technology and opportunities, of course. But Copernicus has to stay Copernicus. What I mean by that, it's Copernicus is first. If you come back to the root of Copernicus, Copernicus is global monitoring for environment and security. Copernicus is a civil user-driven operational system built to respond to major societal challenges and based on solid scientific expertise. And Copernicus, of course, as you all know, generates free and open data access, and users want usable information. What is mean usable information? That means that data are not so much interesting for users, in fact, because they can't interpret it, they can't use it, and so they have to. They need that somebody between the data and us made the translation or made something user-friendly for them. So that's what the services of Copernicus are already doing. But you know that maybe it's what we call le chaînon manquant here, and I think it's really a place that could be occupied by economic actors, because the services can do everything, and they are oriented towards core users much more than all the users community. So there is really a gap that could be that has to be filled. So what the users say to us, they are very attached about the continuity of data and products. That was one of the results of the conference. They want usable information, as they say, in response to key user requirements. And they also want to call for the full implementation of priorities that we already defined for this MFF, and that are very important for us. I mean, evolution of the services, but also Copernicus expansion missions and the preparation of Sentinel next generation. That's the first priority, you can say. After that, there is a priority about climate, priority on climate change, mitigation, adaptation, resilience. And this priority has to be linked with the Paris Agreement, of course, but also with all the challenges that has rise by climate change. I mean, food, I mean food security, water security, of course, and maybe some Earth, part of Earth's problem. They also raise the interface with destination Earth. That's it's important to have a look about this, and globally all the Green Deal targets. What Evie already said. Resilience and security. So maybe we are a small step between the priority of the Commission and what the users of Copernicus really want to do. Copernicus, on this story, is coming from environment. Environment, it's coming from Convention d'Aarhus, and everything open, everything share, and it's not, in fact, very close to security services. And so we understand completely and what the Commission is trying to do, and we really are attached on this attached on sovereignty and independence of Europe, that of course today is considered a necessity. And we know and we see the limits of too much open-minded attitude about this. We have to be realistic, and we have to understand that now things are changed, and we have to do with that and to deal with that. And maybe we have to scale up already emergency and security services with new features, more flexible, more reactive, and maybe also we have to prepare to do something else, but maybe outside of Copernicus, using Copernicus, taking advantage of all the infrastructures and expertise developed in Copernicus, maybe on the side of Copernicus, not exactly inside. So it's not a quite different point of view of what the Commission said, but in fact, it's just, I think, the limit to find. After that, of course, I'm too long, I'm sorry. Yes, maybe.
No,
so
it's.
I will stay. I will stop there and maybe come back to the particular point later.
Yeah, again, you raise some really interesting points, and what I wanted to reflect upon as well, which is this, well, the post, as Evie put it, the post 24th of February, as the Commissioner put it, the world before and after the 24th of February, and how the last few weeks have seen enormous changes in Europe as well as elsewhere. But just before that, I'd like to bring Fiammetta into the discussion. Evie, you talked about a user-driven program. USPER is the agency which now has the responsibility for increasing the user uptake of Copernicus. So in terms of the future priorities and the evolution, Fiammetta, what's the view from Prague?
Yes, thanks for this question. Indeed, let me take this before we go back to the other topic, the perspective of the market, of the users. So also, as Isabella was explaining, there is a gap, and we are there to fill in this gap. And as Evie was saying, to take one of the challenges that Commissioner Breton put on the table, he said that Copernicus is no more to be considered a space system, but it has to be considered a 360 degrees digital system. And we want to bring this new digital system to many more users that we have today. And we are working to really bring this new user that today just maybe approached or don't know about Copernicus inside the picture. So this is a bit our role. We'll do with different tools, but let me maybe give some perspective from the market, because we recently published our Earth observation and Gnss market report. I don't know if you had the opportunity to go through it. Many of the people that are here around the table supported it, because it's quite of community work that then USPA put together. And the market report is telling us that in the next 10 years, so with the horizon of 2031, this market of Earth observation will grow from 2.8 billion to 5.5 billion, so quite a good increase. And there are certain areas that will increase more than others. For example, the insurance and finance market will go from 5.2 to 18.2%. So from kind of marginal today, it will become the market to develop. So this is also a message. So from the insurance part, assessing the risk, the parametric insurance, the financial investors that want to invest now in ESG, so in environment, social, and governance, high score investment, carbon offset that we already quoted, renewable energy, new projects. So these are all areas that will grow, and in which we think we have to bring more Copernicus and more Earth observation, as well as more business for Europe. In Europe, we are doing fine today. So our market share is today 42% for what concerns the data distribution, and 34% for data processing. So we're doing quite well, and we represent a good part of the market. But things are changing, as you said, are changing geopolitically, and are changing in the competition scenario. There are regions in the world, like in Asia, where the demand is growing. And so this growing demand can be also satisfied by more internal capacity. So we have to keep the pace and to enlarge our club that was quoted also before. That is a big family. It has to become a bigger community. So we need a new thinker, we need innovators, we need startups to get inside. And for this, we are using this big opportunity that the Commission put on the table, that is Cassini. That is a full initiative for entrepreneurship in space and also in the usage of space data. There we have many initiatives. Let me just quote a few ones. Our next hackathons to bring new thinkers and new ideas will be on sustainable tourism, a compartment that suffered a lot from for the pandemic, and where we want really to let's say invite and trigger more usage of Earth observation and Copernicus. We will have our prize on maritime, where we will go to see what we can do best, for example, for the plastic at sea. And so we will challenge the real innovators to get solutions. And also we have our Cassini Mayo Space competition going to the second phase. Also there we have many innovative ideas that came up from the digital twin of trees to the reefs protection and so on, where we mix the environmental part with the business part. So they're not in contradiction. This is one of my other messages. So many things are coming to support the development of the market in Copernicus and to bring inside that user that today has not yet big voice in Copernicus, so the so-called other users, so the business, the commercial users, the research, the NGO. We will also open our user consultation platform this year to the user of Earth observation. So it will be in October under the next presidency, that will be the Czech presidency and the EU Space Week. And there we would like really to voice the wider community that can make of Copernicus their, let's say, product that enable new ways. So we are here to do this job, and so I would like then maybe to explain you better later on some other things that we have in mind.
I've got to come off mute. Yeah, great. And again, so many different threads that we could take there. Evie, you talked about more agile constellations and a hybrid model with industry. Clearly, we very much look towards that, the Green Deal, and then resilience and secure. The sort of world-shattering and world-shaping changes that we see going on in Ukraine at the moment, which certainly, I mean, so far it hasn't spilled over into space. It may do. Resilience becomes very important, and of course defense. In Europe's talking about increasing its defense expenditure. It's probably far too early to really tell, and even maybe ask the question, but do you think defense will come stronger into Copernicus, or we'll see, obviously we had security as a key mission, or there will be other initiatives developing? So to bring it back to the context, do you think these changes will change the evolution of Copernicus or the evolution of space in Europe?
I think, as you yes, you said it also again, that the whole global context, I mean, space has become a real geopolitical domain. Also now de facto for Europe. This was the case from the beginning, from Russia or from China, our biggest competitors, and to a certain extent also to the US. So I think how space started, in particular in Europe, was like a great cooperation back like 50 or 60 years ago, a great research community, and to which with open collaboration, and it continued like this, and it was a great success. We always said it, as I said, during the Cold War, space was really not touched about this. By this, but we have seen a trends for militarization of space from foreign actors, not only Russia, but also China, and then US also giving this. So as some of you probably know that in mid-February, the Commission put on the table 2 proposals. They are in particular the space traffic management for the sustainable use of space, because we have so many debris there, so we need to regulate. So this is also how we can join also the defense community there with the commercial community, all the satellites that are there, but also the secure connectivity constellation. And that could also help to have secure government communications and a commercial also leg that is also secure. And this is also to be able to become non-dependent, autonomous actually, to combine terrestrial and space-based connectivity for all the needs that we have today. Coming up to defense, it is true that defense, it is, we've seen this in particular now with the Russian war, we've seen this trend, and Germany was one of the main member states that immediately reacted into this with changing a dogma of many, many years. And since still, so the leaders, the EU leaders are meeting today and tomorrow in Versailles. So we expect also from there some guidelines or possible instruments covering also the crisis situation, but also the defense. So I think against all this, this setting, also Copernicus will be influenced. As I said, we were thinking also before the Russian invasion that on having resilient Copernicus services, not as much as, because we say Copernicus is this Galileo today is a civilian system under civilian control, but it is dual use. So it is for the users to decide on the use they're going to make. So what we can offer from the EU point of view, we can have secure services that we can guarantee that they cannot be spoofed, jammed, so that they are authenticated, that they know the users, and then they can decide if they're going to use it for security sensitive operations, also for migration, for other migration flows, for example, or for only for environmental monitoring. So as long as provider of these services, we would like really to offer agile services that are highly secure. And for this, in order to be able to have this trust of the community, we can be inspired of this governance that we have already put in place for the Galileo encrypted signal, which is reserved for the governmental users, because it's a level of trust that we can be inspired to see how we can do it in the Copernicus in the future, so that also the defense community could be served by these services. But our objective is not only to serve the defense community. The security at the larger notion could also be served. So certainly this is one of the chantiers that will be working in the next months and years, I would say.
I can imagine there'll be a lot going on and a lot of views. Any pre-indication, Isabel, from Versailles? Is that again? I know there are sort of some pre-statements made. I guess you're following that and what may come out. Mute. Sorry if that's an unfair question, and just say if it is.
Yes, it's a really unfair question. As you know, I can't answer you.
Okay.
So
I'll move on then.
But on the line of what Evie said, I think we will. Everybody realize that there is really an issue with security, resilience, sovereignty, like we said earlier. And I think that this is a point for space. I'm speaking for space and for Copernicus especially. Copernicus is not very dependent on other countries. That's a good thing. And when we see where our fragility, in fact, we don't have a lot fragility. So it's a good thing, of course. And of course, we have to listen the users and the core users. And but as security needs of, needs, it's a small word, I think, the security needs of defense for our services and for our project and for our products are so high level that a program and such distributed as Copernicus can't really answer defense needs from inside. Of course, defense can use all the product of Copernicus. That's it's certain, but maybe we have to be careful because it will be, if you have to do again everything, I think we can't afford it. I recall that Copernicus has not the money they need to do what we are already playing. So doing something else very tricky and very complicated with no more money or in the same context, it will be very difficult. And I think that the current users of Copernicus will have a very great difficulty to understand that, even in the situation with Ukraine.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Yeah. Thanks. I thought I was on mute. So moving back a little bit more mainstream, we've done quite a lot of work looking at the value of Earth observation data, and we find that the public users are benefiting a great deal, and not always in obvious ways. We presented on this at the recent user forum quite recently. There are many examples, from measuring water quality to roads, forests, marine pollution, where some agencies, some administrations are recognizing and using Copernicus and are familiar, but many are not. And so the question really for each of you is how can we do more to encourage the uptake amongst other government bodies, other public administration bodies, whether they're at local level, agencies at national level, or even agencies representing at European level. Fiammetta, do you want to start commenting? This is very much into your domain.
Yes, indeed. So it's a bit our main task to try to bring a Copernicus outside the, let's say, current users that are really important users that have driven Copernicus, but we think are not enough. So I think the best way to do this is to demonstrate the added value. And for this reason, we have, for example, we have launched and closed successfully, I have to say, the first call of Horizon Europe that put together the usage of Gnss, of Galileo and Copernicus for the Green Deal for Europe. Why I say successfully closed? Because we have a 28 proposal just in this call. That is a very high number, a very good answer from our innovation compartment that see the value of creating synergies in our space program components and to create innovative solutions directly to these users that otherwise normally has no direct access. They're not the super expert of Earth observation or GNSS. So we think that the most important way is to really demonstrate this, demonstrate in the fields, entry in the operation, in the daily operation of our, let's say, public administration, also private users in the sector of construction or materials, energy. And for this, we will also launch a set of demonstration activities that will involve directly these users. And we used this approach with Galileo some years ago, and it paid off. So we think that we can do then now exploiting the synergies. About the synergies, maybe just to link with the previous topic, the governmental users, we think that also there, for the first time in Europe, we have an answer to overall need expressed by governmental user. We can navigate in a secure way. We can provide them in the future even more secure information and we will be able to communicate. So we think that investing now in these synergies and USPA made of it one of our, let's say, strategic goal is fundamental to arrive to the users that are now maybe sectorial in one of the system, or they are not really involved. And just to conclude, as I said before, for me, enlarging the space club, and especially the Art Observation Club, is also essential. So we will invest a lot to bring in new players that are not there today.
Okay, and we're happy to see that and to talk further on that particular subject linked to some of the things that we've done. Isabel, you're sitting right in that position, interministerial coordination. So what's your perspective on how to increase the uptake and to get the value of Copernicus recognized by some of the agencies that maybe haven't yet seen the light, as it were?
In France, you know, we have developed an organization called CoSpace that bring together industrial ministry, users from organization, and of course SME, and everyone is welcome in this kind of fora, and we will exchange. We have some little small working group on different subjects, and I think about 6 years ago we created something called a booster. It's a place to favorize the meeting between digital expertise, space expertise, and thematic expertise. And we are 6 boosters in France, with each one has its specificities. And I was surprised that the one was, we think at the beginning that it was very risky, because it was one where there are no expertise in space. And it was in the west of France. It was a link to sea and ocean expertise. And in fact, it is the one that works very, very, very well. It's what's the best one, in fact, because people, we start from the needs on one side, and maybe the digital possibility on the other side, and in the middle of there is of course the space data and what we can do with Copernicus, and this organization are now Copernicus Relay, and they can animate an ecosystem around space, Copernicus, and thematic, and they help a small company to find funds and maybe users for their project, and it works very well. So it's of us Relay, and the others, of course, is all the Copernicus Relays and Copernicus Academy, and we have an animation around this that Gnss made, and it's and we organize it around the FP Cup. I don't know if you all know what the FP Cup is, but it's an agreement between member states and funded by the Commission and by member states for the project, and it works very well because we can share expertise, you can share ideas. So sometimes, and we each country can develop application in its own languages, and in fact the language is a key factor. Expertise, language, access, easy access to the data and algorithm, all of these are very important to develop a product. And sometimes the products that work well are not the one we expected to do.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes. Evie, at European level, what's anything specific? We've mentioned the relays and the knowledge that there is in Copernicus, but that's really quite, it's a community. In terms of other services in the European Commission, what's how to encourage better uptake, more uptake?
Yes, indeed, I can only say that I can only underline what Fiammetta said from the USPA perspective, because USPA is our EU agency, our operational arm with the core task related to the market uptake. The fact that the synergies was the main keyword that actually Fiammetta said, because this is really one of the drivers for this MFF for USPA. In that sense that there are a lot of opportunities seeking synergies between the various components of the space program. So typically the satellite navigation with the Earth observation, and to foster in all our downstream activities. So that's one thing. But as European Commission and policy maker, I think we are working into breaking the silos, and the fact that, for example, also for research activities under Horizon, but also in the entrepreneurship activities, we really calls for space are actually, or funding for space, it is in a brought in a broader context, so not in a specific earmark kind of pocket, if you want to you put it like this, so that actually because then you raise the awareness that what the space solutions actually can do. But even more importantly, our job as European Commission is, because we are producing policy at the European level, all the other EU policies actually, they can incorporate the EU space data and the EU space services from the beginning. And this was not the case, unfortunately, so far, or certainly not enough. So it was mentioned, typically, we have done a significant there in the agriculture, for example, or in the transport, although there's a lot of potential to untap, not only the maritime, as was Fiammetta also was referring to, but also the rail, for example. There are huge opportunities there. But since EU space data and services, they can actually reply to all the EU priorities, the three priorities of the Commission, of this Commission, so the twin transitions, digital and green, but also the resilient Europe, actually. So in that sense, when our job and my team's job is like now that whenever the Commission is producing legislations in other domains, or in or communications, for example, setting a vision or making proposals, so we try to make hooks, inject the right, so that they can rely on the EU space data and services. So to open up, break a bit the silo. We're not yet there, but this is one of the priorities of this under this MFF, so that we really open up opportunities, and of course opening up all policies to the EU space data and services is how we can support the EU industry, actually creating business opportunities for them.
Yeah. We had a good example in fact, supporting the work with the user forum was linked to the measurement of water quality in Germany, and the institute was pleading for the European legislation to open the possibility of using Copernicus data, because although they already are, he can't get the investment through the institute to really take that forward, because it's not recognized in legislation. So there really is a strong link there. I'll come back to the beginning now, where I talked about International Women's Day and the some of the studies, and we wanted to introduce Women for Copernicus. We've got Natalie with us. She was here a moment ago anyway. I think she's still here. Hi, Natalie.
Hi, Jeff.
You've all followed successful careers. For a young girl or young woman now setting out, what advice would you give to them in their career? Who wants to start on that? Ask each of you. What advice would you give? Isabel, your microphone's open, so I'll ask you.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Why not? I really think that young women should not hesitate to get involved in Earth observation and in science about the Earth system, because there is a lot of women in there, and it is very open for women. I never had any difficulties in my work, and it was interested, and people are very open-minded. And if you want a job that makes sense, I think Copernicus is just perfect, because we are in a way in charge of monitoring the Earth and doing something for the next generation, because I think that Copernicus will be a kind of testimony for the future generation, when the climate will have been changed and so much that maybe people will forget what it was before. And I think really it's an opportunity to and people are happy to work on Earth observation and proud also to do this. So it's useful, and it can make a difference in the future. And I think for women in this area, sky is the limit.
Yeah. Can I?
Yes, Evie, please. Your microphone was open. Oh, Fiammetta.
Yeah. Well, yes.
Fiammetta,
So,
you said earlier you were an engineer, so come on.
Yes. Yes. I'm an engineer, and as Isabel, I have very good experience, being a woman in this sector. However, I want to say to the girls who are listening, not to hesitate. I mean, there is you have here Evie with us, so she is not an engineer. So this is not only for rocket scientists, first of all, and she's in the driving seat as well. So let's not impose on us limits that we don't have. So that's my first encouragement. It's possible to conciliate the private and work life, especially now with the flexibility, as you mentioned. But I think we can do more. I was for the International Women's Day here in Prague. There was an exhibition sponsored by the Italian representation that is about what they call 100 experts. So what they noticed, and there are studies, the global media monitoring, that 82% of the experts that are called by the media to comment on technology, on science, on economy, are men. So 82%. So the world is seen by men in our media. So we have to do something that we can to reinvert this tendency, and also to give a women perspective that I think will also encourage more girls and more women to enter. So in this initiative, there is 100 experts that are women that are put in a database and can be accessed by the media. And when I see the dialogue between the so-called peace dialogue between Ukraine and Russia, I don't see any woman. I think women will help also in this.
I was having a discussion the other day about if the women were heads of state, would we have the war? It's a very interesting discussion, because don't forget Golda Meir and Margaret Thatcher both took their countries to war. So the answer is not quite so obvious as people might think. Evie, sorry, I'll give you the last word on this.
I think you mentioned, Jeff, in the beginning, diversity is the key, actually. So we need both. It's not one against the other. We're complementary. So this is, we need the diversity. I would say what do we need to foster is, I would say, two things. Role models. We really need much more role models. So lead by example. So the fact that the young girls are used to seeing women in high executive position, in prime minister, in president position. In the European Union, we are having more and more women as role model. We have Ursula von der Leyen in the European, we have in the European Central Bank, we have a woman, we have in the European Parliament now, we have in the top leading position of the EU institutions, we have some role models, but we need more. But also then also in the businesses. You go to the aerospace ecosystem, unfortunately, there are very, very few women in the top management position. And this is reflected in the panels, as Fiammetta also was saying, but also not only the expert panels, but also the executive panels. So we really have to make an effort to push the glass ceiling, so role model, and the other one is push young girls to STEM, actually, to really from the maternelle, from the really primary school, to push into this. Some things have been done, but we really have to push it to this direction, so that the young girls, they are not afraid, because first they have the role models that they can identify themselves, and then also they are pushed into the STEM engineering studies. So I think that's what I'd say. Thank you.
I agree with you very much on that. That really really resonates, and maybe some more coaching and mentoring feeding down as well. Natalie, Women in Copernicus, do you want to say a few words?
Yes, if I can, I will take the floor just 5 seconds. I don't know. So I'm talking in the name of the project called Women in Copernicus. I don't know if you know it, but there is quite a lot of material to see on the website and social media. And we believe in that project, that women will be part of the future of Copernicus. So really happy to be there today. And there are 3 points I just want to say that I'm really happy to hear you, all 3 of you. Happy to see 3 women at high level of the Copernicus program. As you said, it's important to be visible, to have role model. And according to our survey of Women in Copernicus, we really need, all the women in Copernicus really need to see women at the top level of the hierarchy. So thank you to all you 3 to be visible, to be part of it, and to be proud also of being there, and giving this message to all the new generation. Happy to hear also that Copernicus is a user-driven program, because I think a larger majority of our survey said also that women are really interested to be in this user service, in this link to the user. And it's important, as Isabel said, that Copernicus can give a sense to our job satisfaction. And it's really important for women, for the women we had in contact with, but also for the girls to explain for their future, to be part of the solution and not only of the challenges. And the third point I want to say, it's I'm really happy to agree with the principle of enlarging the community, the Copernicus Club that was mentioned today, because I believe that the gender openness will also open the direction and give work to new interesting profiles, not only girls, but also inclusive vision, and perhaps integration of GMES for Africa, for example, where I think a lot of participants were in our second survey. Yeah, I think these members from other regions of the world will really be happy to use this big data, petabyte of data, as you said, that are usable, and will support also the increased use of our huge program and huge tool to help understand the world. So thank you for the organization of this conference. Thank you, Natasha. Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks, Natalie. And we're a few minutes over, and I think people have to leave. There's an interesting question from Flavia in the question, but maybe we can, people hang around, we can come to that in a moment. So again, thank you, Evie, Isabel, and Firmina. Thank you very much for joining us today. It's been a nice conversation. I'd like to carry on the conversation with all 3 of you individually at other times. I think there are so many different topics that have come out that it would be fascinating to develop further. So thank you for spending your time with us today, and also, as Natalie says, acting as a role model for young women coming into the business. And it is certainly a really interesting business and interesting domain to be in. And the challenges of the future are going to be enormous. Our next EOcafe will be in 2 weeks' time at the normal time of 4 o'clock. We'll have Mark Dow with us from the JRC talking about the Knowledge Centre for Earth Observation and helping us to understand what it is and what it's trying to do and how people can interact with it. So join us again in 2 weeks' time. Happy to see you here. And at this point, I'll sort of close the informal or the formal informal part, and anybody can please open your microphone and just speak if you wish.